Hello, hello, hello. Welcome. I wanted to just hop on here and talk about my new release, Gone But Not Forgotten. Take some questions and just generally talk about writing for a little bit. So, hello, I'm Cate Conte, for those of you who may not know me. I write the Full Moon Mysteries, and I also write the Café Mysteries. Hi, Diane. It's so nice to see you. Just giving people a minute to join if they are going to join. In the meantime, if you have any questions you want me to answer, just pop them in the chat. Hello, hello. Welcome. I'm sorry about the dogs squeaking and barking in the background. They're really revved up right now, so they're probably going to be doing a lot of this while I'm trying to talk to you, so apologies in advance. So yeah, thank you so much for joining me. I'm so excited today. Well, this is actually Kate's first Instagram Live, so I haven't really done too many lives on, or haven't done any lives really on this page, so I figured perfect night to start. It's my release night, and I would love nothing better than to spend it with some readers. So this is also a special release day for one of my Wicked sisters, Barb Ross. I don't know if, I hope you guys have read her main Clambake series, but her 10th book, Muddled Through, is out today as well. So we share a release day. We've shared release days in the past. It's really fun. So if you haven't read Barb's series, then please go do that. And I just have to answer one thing. Hold on one second. I'm also doing a live Facebook party at 8, and the person's asking me if I'm coming at 7 or 8. So let me just tell her it's 8. Okay. All right. So yes, so I am Cate. I write those two series under Cate, the Full Moon Mysteries and the Cat Cafe Mysteries. And if you don't know me as Liz McGavro, which is my real name, I also write the Positively Organic Mysteries under that name as well. So if you don't know about Liz or that series, hop over to my Liz Instagram page. I'm also doing a lot over there to help other writers, right? So I've been doing this for a while. This is my 15th book. My 16th book is coming out next year. And something that has really been important to me from the beginning is just helping other writers. So if you're a writer, if you're looking to start writing, if you know someone who is a writer and needs some support or community, send them over to my page. I'm doing a lot over there. I'm doing a lot over on Facebook. I also have a free community on Facebook for writers. We do a lot of writing hours together so people can get their writing time in. So just lots of fun stuff. So head over to my page if you want more information on that. So let's talk about the Cat Cafe Mysteries. So the series follows protagonist Maddie James, who in book 1, she's just coming back to her hometown, which is a small fictional island off the coast of Massachusetts. She comes back for a funeral. Her grandmother passes away, and she never leaves. She had been out on the West Coast for a while, and she had no plans to move back. But when she came back, she found that her grandpa Leo, who's her favorite person in the world, needed some help. So he was about to lose the home that his family had built generations ago, and she has to figure out how to help him keep it. And of course there's a murder, and so she gets really sucked in, and she ends up staying on Daybreak Island with her family. And that first book also sets the stage on how Maddie opens the Cat Cafe, and where she meets her new best friend, JJ the Orange Cat, who I'm sure if you've read the books you all know and love. And just a fun fact about JJ, he is actually modeled after a cat that I had, who was also named JJ. He was, Junkyard Johnny was his full name, and he was a rescue from a junkyard. And he just had the cutest little face, and I couldn't help but take him home. So JJ sadly passed away back in 2018, but I really love that he lives on in the book. So the JJ in the book is definitely based on a real kitty. And so that's book 1, and then the story evolves from there, of course. And today, book 6, Gone But Not Forgotten, is out. And yeah, this was really a fun one for me to write. I really had a great time writing this book. One thing I try to do in all my books that have an animal focus is to weave in different rescue themes. So in this book, Maddie is alerted to a hoarding situation on one of the smaller towns on the island, so she has to jump in and help a lot of cats. So the book is really special to me also because I got to spend a lot of time with one of my favorite supporting characters, Cass, who is actually also built on a real person, and I didn't change his name, it's Cass as well. And actually, if you follow my blog over on cateconte.com, I wrote a blog post today about the real Cass and how he ended up as a character in my book. Molly, stop. So I'll give you the Cliff Notes version here, but if you want the full story, just head over to the blog and check it out. But so Dr. Ming Wu, who's my traditional Chinese medicine doctor, I started seeing him back in 2012 in Hartford, Connecticut, and the first class I ever went to at Dr. Wu's, this guy was there, and he was playing singing bowls at the beginning of the class, and I had never really, I had known what they were, but I had never really experienced them before, and it was such a cool experience. And this guy, I saw him every week for, I don't know, a couple of years. He played his singing bowls before class and totally changed my life. This still, to this day, is one of my favorite healing modalities. So my fictional cast is loosely based on the real cast. They look the same. They're both from Haiti. They're both super cool people. They're very zen. I took some liberties with the fictional cast. He lives on this island, of course, and he owns a metaphysical bookstore and a tea room and a yoga center, and he's Maddie's mentor. So in this book, Cass is the one who kind of alerts Maddie to the hoarder situation. So he is a primary character, and of course he ends up as a suspect in the murder, so she has to get involved to make sure that he is not arrested for this. Hi Lauren, thanks for joining. Hi Joanne. So you guys, if you have any questions, pop them into the chat. I'm doing some giveaways. I would definitely show you, I would hold the book up and show it to you, but I don't have my copies yet, but I should be getting them any day now, so I'm going to give away 2 copies of the book tonight. You guys probably have them already if you ordered them in advance, so let me know how they look, because I haven't seen the real thing yet. So yeah, so that's an overview of the book. And then I got a couple of questions in advance, so I figured I would just start with those. And oh, Lauren, you got your copy. Good. How does it look? I always love seeing them in person, and I didn't get to do that yet. I was kind of bummed. But hopefully they didn't go to my old address, because I moved about a month ago, and I did tell everyone that I moved, and they did say that they knew that, but I don't know. So that's happened before, so hopefully they're not still in Connecticut, where I am not any longer. All right, so Dave asked, how did you come up with the plot for this book? So yeah, so I usually, like I said, I usually try to, when I have, when I'm writing an animal, oh, it looks good. Good, I'm glad. When I'm writing an animal-themed book, I try to have some kind of rescue component in the story, because that's really near and dear to my heart. I've been doing rescue for a long time. It means a lot to me, and helping to educate people on, what rescuers do and how they do it and why they do it, and some of the situations that they run into, and how people, who aren't in rescue can be aware and can be helpful in some way. It's really important to me. So the hoarder situation, hoarding, we hear about hoarding on the news a lot. It's horrible for animals and for people. It's just not a good situation. So there was an experience that I had when I was doing some rescue a couple of years after I had moved to Connecticut, and there was a person that I ran into who was actually an animal control officer, and I had gone over to this person's house to get some medication for a cat that I had rescued, and this person was helping me with. And I had been let into the house without this person's knowledge that I was in there. And when I went in the house, I was a little taken aback. There's a scene in the book that talks about when Maddie goes into the kitchen and she feels all these eyes on her, and she looks around and there's just cat eyes everywhere in the kitchen, you know, hiding on the top of the cabinets and, you know, on every basically available space. And that was the experience that I had at this person's house. I walked in and there were just cats everywhere. And I mean, I've had a decent number of cats in my life, but there were a lot of cats in this house. And when I went into the basement, oh my God, it was clearly there was an issue. And I was mortified because this person was an animal control officer, you know, and clearly was trying to help, but somewhere along the way it had gotten a little bit out of control. So I had never kind of forgotten that experience, and so that was really where I started with this book and this hoarding situation, and really thinking about how someone might have gotten into a situation like that without meaning to, being a well-meaning person, you know, someone who really did just want to help cats, but it just got out of hand. And so I started with this woman who lived in a small town, and she, you know, had tried to take in some cats, didn't know enough to get them spayed or neutered, or didn't have the funds to do that, didn't really have the funds to care for them. A lot of them were outside. It was causing problems with her neighbors. And I started thinking about, you know, what could happen if, what's the worst that could happen if somebody, you know, was in a situation like that, in a small town like that. And so that's kind of where the book started. And I really wanted Cass to be involved because I just thought he was such a great character. He was, obviously, I'm biased, but he's one of my favorite characters to write about. And so he hadn't really had a starring role in any of the books yet. So I put Cass in the story by having him take his classes to this small town, where these folks didn't have access to public transportation or the ability to get over to the main part of the island where the classes were being taught. And he befriended this woman and found out about the situation, and that's kind of where I started. So that's where I got the plot for this book. So anybody have any questions, just pop them into the chat. I will definitely take them live. I'm just going through a couple that I had gotten in advance for those who just joined. Hi, Judith. So another question I got was, how do you set up the areas where the story takes place? So yeah, setting is super important, right? Because in so many books it almost becomes like its own character. When it's done well, I think it's its own character. And I think when you're writing a series, it's easier once you're a few books in, obviously, because you've got the setting already kind of set, at least a good foundation for it, and you can build on it as the books continue. When I start a new series, it's really interesting how, you know, setting and how I end up working through the setting. So in my first series, my Positively Organic series, the series actually started with the setting. So I was taking a walk on the town green in the town next to where I lived at the time, and it was a really cool town green. It was, I think, the only still functional agricultural town green in the state. This was Connecticut. And it had a great like walking path. It was about a mile long. It was a big loop. The dogs loved it. So we would go there a lot. And I remember walking around it one night, and I was just looking at the little houses, and they had events on the green, and it just seemed like a really community-driven place. And I remember thinking, like, oh, it'd be really cool to set a story, you know, a book here, or a novel, or a series here. And then I started thinking about who the character would be who lived in that little Victorian house, and, you know, what they would do in town for work, and how all of that would come together, and how the town green would be kind of the unofficial town hall, where people would do all their business, and all the good gossip would be shared, and all of that. So that's where I started with my Positively Organic series. When I was starting the Café series, it was, I knew I wanted to set it on an island. I think islands are just a great fodder for stories, right? Because you have the season, you know, if it's a New England island, you have that seasonal component where there's all these new people coming to the island, new things are happening all the time. It's very busy, it's bustling, there's so much potential for all kinds of mayhem. And then in the wintertime, it's, quieter, almost creepy a little if there's a big storm, and it's got that atmospheric setting to it. So I knew I wanted to have this series set on an island, but I was a little baffled as to how I was going to put a cat cafe on it, to be honest, because cat cafes typically are found in urban centers, and they're more geared towards cities where people might have smaller apartments, or they're not allowed to have pets where they live, so they have to go and find, get their cat petting fix elsewhere. So as the proposal for this series was developing, and I was trying to figure out, how to merge this island setting that I had already really started cultivating and the cat cafe direction that the series was heading in, how that was going to work. So I ended up, I think, making it work pretty well. It's a different twist on a cat cafe. It's a place where the locals definitely come and hang out with the cats, and it's become a place where people can get jobs and volunteer, and there's regulars who come every day or every week to hang out with some of the cats, but also it's a place where Maddie and her team can get people who are coming to the island to visit, to come in and hopefully adopt cats, get more publicity for the place, get more attention. So I think it's working, but you guys can tell me. So I, definitely in a cozy series setting, and the small town feel and the people, and it's almost like a family-like atmosphere. I usually start with thinking about how all of that's going to work, and what are the connections, and how does the setup of the town and the roles that I have people playing, how that's going to foster connection, because ultimately I think that's why people come back to cozies, is because they enjoy spending time with the people. It's almost like having good friends. So that's how I come up with setting. Then someone asked, do I write the ending first, then create the story, or work from an outline? So this is kind of the plotter pantser question. Anyone who hangs around with writers knows that there's like this ongoing debate of, are you a plotter or are you a pantser? Plotters being the people who plan out the entire book, or pretty damn close, and then pantsers being the people who just write and hope that things come to them. So I actually started out as a pantser. I was a pantser for a very long time, and I just kind of thought like, I don't need to outline, that's just not the way I do things. And it's easier to do that when you don't have a deadline and you can kind of meander your way to the end of a book. But when you do have a deadline, you kind of got to get your story straight so you can actually write it. So my my other publisher for my Positively Organic series and my Full Moon series, they require a synopsis for every book. The Cat Cafe series publisher does not. So so I did get used to writing synopses for my other series, but not especially for this one. And then there was one episode where this was in my Positively Organic series. I was in the middle of writing this book, and there was a lot going on in my personal life, and I was moving, and all these things were happening, and I thought I had an extra month to turn the book in, and I didn't, long story short. And I found out when I was away on a trip internationally that the book was due a month earlier than I thought. I was not even halfway through it. I had completely written myself into a corner. I had no idea how to get out of it, and I had a very, very loose synopsis that I was working off of that wasn't helping me at all. So I did what any good writer would do in a case like that. I called my best writing friends and I cried and I told them how stupid I was that I messed up my deadline and how I had no idea what the heck I was going to do, and I just didn't know where to go next with this book. And so one of my very dear wicked author friends said, let's get on a FaceTime and figure out this plot. And so we did that, and within 2 hours she had unwritten me out of my corner, and I had a plan and a path forward to finish the book, which I did, and all was well. But ever since then, I don't start a book without having a plotting session like that with her. It's just so helpful to me. I can help people untangle plots in their own books. I can, tell them how to write outlines, but, it's just that much harder to do it for yourself, especially when you're so close to the characters and, it's just, I don't know, it's one of those things, it's just harder to do it for yourself. So that has helped me immensely. And so I am more of a plotter now. So I write my synopses. I write about 8 to 10 pages of a synopsis before I start writing my book. I do this plotting session, and then I use Scrivener, which is a writing software. And it's really great because it's almost like electronic index cards. You can move your scenes around, you can make notes, it's very cool. So I plot out as many scenes as possible in Scrivener before I start. I never plot the whole entire book. I can't plot out every single scene. Like, that's just not, I still can't do that. I mean, I think it would probably be good if I could, but I can't do that. So I don't, and I don't beat myself up about it. So usually what I do is I end up writing about half the book, and then I usually start going back and editing and rewriting and revising so I can keep moving forward, because once I get to a certain point in the middle, it's hard. I have to make sure that I've set everything up to that point to make sure I can keep going, because otherwise I feel like there's going to be way too much editing at the end. I don't know. Everyone's got a different process. I used to really criticize my own process. I used to think, something was wrong with me because I couldn't just write a full book. Like so many of my friends say, I wrote my first draft and I wrote the end, and now I go back and I start editing. I just can't do that. So I usually end up writing half, and then I go back and I start revising, and then I can move forward. And then I usually end up writing the next third. Then I go back and do some more revising, and then I go forward. And interestingly enough, the end is always the hardest thing for me. Even if I kind of know where it's going to land, I have a really hard time getting the end down on paper. So that book I was talking about earlier, the one that I had really screwed up and I was stuck and I had to have someone help me out of my plot hole. After all of that, I was writing the end of that book at 3:00 in the morning, the day it was due, crying because I was like, oh my gosh, I don't even know if this is any good anymore. And, it was just a whole thing. But the funny part was when I turned that book in, my editor, who has never, I swear to God, never said this to me ever in all the books we have worked on together, after I turned that book in and he read it, he wrote to me and said, I love the ending of this book. It was the best one yet. So that made me think, well, I guess I should just get up at 3:00 in the morning and write my ending every time I have a book due. Although I don't think that would really be good for my mental health. So no, I don't write the ending first. I can barely write the ending, and I do work from an outline. So time management. Someone else asked, how do you divide time between promoting and writing books? I love the time management question because it's something that I'm still working on. I mean, time management has been a thing for me from day one. So it's not even just promoting and writing books. It's, I do other work during the day too. So it's trying to manage all of the work that's happening, the writing of the books, the promoting of the books, the the things like this, the launches. I mean, planning for a launch is, if you really want to make a big splash out of your launch, that's a lot of work. So I have been testing strategies and creating systems for myself and revising these systems for years. Like I said, this is my 15th book. I have, a 16th book that's in production right now. I've been doing this for a long time. My processes have changed as, my circumstances have changed, but for the most part, for me, what works is to first thing in the morning get my writing done. So whether that's just, if I'm in the draft stage of the book, so which means just really trying to crank out as many words as possible, I'll do, between 500 and 1,000 words in the morning, usually before I even take the dogs out for a walk, because I find it's easiest for me to just get a cup of coffee, bang it out then. I can do it pretty quickly because I'm I'm better in the morning with that. And then I can, take the dogs out. I can go do what I need to do work, whatever. And then if I can get back to writing later in the day, either at lunchtime or, later in the evening, then that's just an added bonus of, adding words and time. But I find if I leave it till later in the day, that's when my brain starts to fry. I've already been doing a lot all day, and, I'll definitely procrastinate more, and I'll put it off, and or flat out won't do it. So I'm back on a new schedule where I'm getting up between 6 and 6:30. I'm doing my morning meditation, my journaling, and then I'm getting my words done. And then by, 8 o'clock, I'm taking the dogs out for a walk and getting on with my day. And then, I have the past few nights been also able to sit back down at night and work on some things. But that's how I get my actual words done. Because look, if you don't get the words done and the book written, then there's not any books to promote. So for me, I try to do that before I do any kind of social media or promotion or, any of that stuff. So definitely the writing comes first. And I try to do it first thing in the morning. As long as I have coffee, that works well. If I don't have coffee, which never happens because I don't think I could even get up, it wouldn't work. So, all right. So another question I got was, and I love this question, how do you keep your characters' personal information correct if you have a lot of characters? So the answer to that is a book Bible. And I wish that I had been smarter about book Bibles before. When I first started out, my first series, I didn't have a book Bible. And I was forever as I'm writing a new book, I was going and finding my, the previous book in the series because I couldn't remember what color car my main character had or, what color eyes her boyfriend had or, whatever. So it's really not efficient to do it like that. So definitely a book Bible. And I was actually thinking, so I have this amazing assistant. Her name is Jen. She doesn't like to come on lives or anything, but I've been trying to get her to come and do a live with me on how to do a book Bible. If she won't do it, then I'm just going to do it myself because I really think it's valuable information for writers and, people who are trying to manage characters and character information. So what she did was, she's been doing this for my Cat Cafe series and my Full Moon Mysteries. And after the books are done, I'll give her a copy, and she's made these great spreadsheets, and she names all the characters. She puts any physical descriptions, where they work, which book they first appeared in, what car they drive, any relations they have to other people in the town, all of those important things that, when I'm 5 books in, I can't remember what I said about Jake's eyes in the first book. So super, super helpful. Every time I start a book, I have those spreadsheets pulled up and open on my computer as I'm writing, so I don't have to come out of my writing moment, to go back and look up, whatever detail I need that's going to hold me up if I can't have it at my fingertips. So super, super helpful. I am going to plan on doing some kind of a class on how to do a book Bible. So any writers looking for that, stay tuned for that. All right. I don't see any questions in the comments. So yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. I'm going to do a couple of giveaways. So leave me some kind of a comment. All right. So then someone else asked, how do you get started in a writing career? I love this question too. So this is kind of a 5-step process. So the first step is to write. Second step, I would say, is to write some more. Third step is to revise. Fourth step is to write. And then the 5th step is to find your community. So in all seriousness, having a writing career is about writing and writing some more. And, you just got to keep going. When I first started, I didn't really even know what I was going to write. So, I've always loved mysteries, but I didn't realize that I could write mysteries until I had already, I had gone to grad school. I wrote a novel for my thesis. It was more of a women's fiction type book. It was terrible, but I got enough credits to pass with that novel. So it's somewhere on a shelf in some library at Emerson College, and I would recommend that no one ever read it. But it showed me that I could write a book. And so it was, pretty cool that I had like 350 pages of a book in my hand. And then after I got out of grad school, I was like, I don't really know what I'm going to write. So it took me a while to realize, like, oh yeah, I love mysteries. They're really fun. I love crime. I've always been obsessed with it. Maybe I should do that. And at the time I had a friend who had just bought a funeral home. And so I started writing a series that took place in a funeral home. That also has not been published yet, but I still have those characters in my file, and I really like them, and I might do something with them in the future. But so I wrote 2 books in that series, that non-existent series, and that was really where I started. And then I started thinking, like, okay, where do I find other people like me? And so I looked up writing conferences, and I happened to find, and this was back like 20 years ago, something like that. I found the New England Crime Bake Conference, which one of the best, if you're a mystery writer, one of the best conferences like ever. I didn't miss one until COVID, and so I haven't been in 3 years, which is sad. So hopefully I get to go back this year. But so I found Crime Bake, and I started going to that. And I remember my, very first Crime Bake. I didn't know anybody. I just went, and I was so in awe to be around all these mystery writers, and it was such an amazing experience. And the people were so nice and welcoming and helpful. And I just kind of had that feeling of, oh yeah, these are my people. I found my tribe, my people. And so, yeah, I started going back every year. I joined Sisters in Crime, which is a national collective of women advancing the career of women writers. And there's men involved in it too, but it's mostly for women. And I joined the national group, and then I joined the New England chapter. And the New England chapter is actually the reason why, 10 years after writing, editing, revising, writing some more, pitching, going to conferences every year, meeting people, just trying to get myself acclimated to the community and get my name out there and really hone my craft. 10 years after I started doing all of that, it was because of Sisters in Crime New England that I got an opportunity to write my first cozy series. So there was an agent that had reached out to the group, to the president of the group, and asked if he could work with any cozy authors or any authors who were looking to write cozy proposals. So myself and a number of my Wicked author sisters answered that call, and we all got contracts. And so it really, I like to say after 10 years, it happened overnight, but it happened because of that community that I had cultivated. So I would highly recommend that anybody who's trying to start a career in writing, any kind of writing, definitely find your community, and keep writing, and just write a lot. And it doesn't matter if you think it's bad, you just got to keep going and keep polishing and keep learning, and you'll get there. So, all right. So I don't see any questions in the comments. Anything anybody wants to ask while I'm here? I'll give you guys a minute. I always often get asked too about what crystals. So many people who know me know I'm kind of a crystal freak. So what crystals I use when I'm writing. So this week, this has been my favorite stone to write with. It's a feather agate. Isn't it pretty? I'm just really obsessed with this. So this has been sitting on my desk with me all week. It's been very helpful. I've had a good writing week, I think. Well, so far it's only Tuesday. So I guess if it feels good already, that means it's going well. I'm in the middle of plotting out book 7 in the Cat Café series. And this one is going to take place at Halloween. So I'm really excited about that. It's going to be a fun one. So that's what's going on next. And then next March is when the next full moon mystery is coming out. So Which Way Out it's called. and it's done, it's written, it's in production at the moment, and I just got the pub date as March of next year. So if you're a fan of the Full Moon series, that's when the next one will be out. I know it seems like really far away, but it should go by quick. And then hopefully there'll be more in that series. I sent in a proposal last week or 2 weeks ago to see if my editor wants more books in that series. So I'm excited to hear his response. So that's what's up for me. All right, well, I am gonna sign off. I will pick 2 of you guys randomly after the event, 2 of you who tuned in to give books to. If you already have a copy of Gone But Not Forgotten, just shoot me a note and I'll send you a different book. And thank you so much for joining me, and I'll be back and I'll be doing more of these, I promise. So hopefully you'll tune in again. But it was great to be with you guys tonight on launch night. Thanks so much. See you soon.